start a new book. Meditations for healing trauma. Mindfulness skills to ease post-traumatic stress by Louanne Davis. PsyD. Okay. Sorry, the forward. So, quote, "We are not to blame for the effects of trauma, but we can certainly do something about it. In clear language that speaks to the heart of trauma, Louanne Davis offers a series of elegant meditations that wean the mind from fear and back into connection with oneself and others. Readers also learn how to tailor the practices to their own needs and seamlessly integrate them into daily life. This book is a wise and welcome guide to healing and recovery. Highly recommended." That's from Dr. Christopher Green, PhD, faculty member at Harvard Medical School, author of The Mindful Path to Self-Compassion, and co-editor of Mindfulness and Psychotherapy. And that's another review or quote, whatever. "Those who have survived trauma know all too well how feelings of anxiety and confusion can seem to linger on and on. In this enlightening book, trauma expert Louanne Davis clearly explains the nature of trauma reactions and provides natural and scientifically researched methods to help along the road to recovery. By reconnecting with your body, heart, and mind, you can begin the journey to getting your life back." That's from Richard Sears, PsyD, author of Mindfulness. Wow, he got that title. And we've never taken before. Oh, one more. "As both a researcher and practitioner, I have yet to come across a book on mindfulness that is more accessibly written for individuals struggling with post-traumatic symptoms. Mindfulness can be hard to describe, let alone implement, especially for those with the types of symptoms that trauma survivors suffer. I highly recommend this book for anyone striving to thrive after trauma." That's a quote from Candace M. Monson, PhD, professor of psychology at Ryerson University in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, co-author of Cognitive Processing Therapy for PTSD, and original developer of Cognitive Behavioral Cojoint Therapy, CBCT, for post-traumatic stress disorder. New Harbinger Publications. Here's your dedication. "For my husband Jim and my sons John and Chris Whitman, whose love and encouragement support all of my endeavors. For my many teachers, mentors, and colleagues, especially those at the Center for Mindfulness at the University of Massachusetts Medical School and the Richard L. Roudbush VA Medical Center in Indianapolis, Indiana. You have generously shared your wisdom and friendship over the years. For all who suffer with post-traumatic stress, especially those who have touched my life and inspired my work, many of you contributed to this project in various ways. Without you, my clinical work, research, and writing about mindfulness and PTSD would not be possible." Alright. Okay. Chapter 1. How Mindfulness Can Help Trauma. How mindfulness can help you recover from trauma. When you live through something really horrible, It shocks you to the core. This type of event is called a trauma. Traumas take many forms. The man or woman who is raped, that's what everybody thinks of, or soldiers, victims of a flood and the first responders who rescue them, soldiers who see friends and innocent civilians injured and killed in a war zone, the driver who is almost killed when his car goes off the road, and there are those who endure repeated trauma, such as the child who is beaten or verbally or sexually abused. Trauma then becomes part of daily life. All these people have one thing in common. It's likely that the trauma left them feeling terrified, enraged, ashamed, and helpless. A trauma overwhelms you. You may feel that it's more than you can handle. You may not expect to survive. The extreme stress caused by trauma disrupts the connection between your body, heart, and mind. That connection helps you function at your best in your day-to-day life. Your body, heart, and mind are designed to work together. When they work together, they help you recover from trauma, like a sailboat that rights itself after a wave tips it over. Of course, how long it takes to recover depends on how bad the storm is, what shape the boat is in, and what resources are on hand for repairs. Brain scans of traumatized people show signs that trauma disturbs the self-righting system. That's from Hayes, and Mikadis, 2012. You need this self-righting system to heal and recover. After a trauma, everyone experiences post-traumatic stress to some extent because it is a natural reaction to trauma. The changes in the body, heart, and mind that were needed to survive are no longer needed once the threat is over. A feeling of being safe returns, and the natural recovery process can begin. For most people, the signs of post-traumatic stress lessen considerably during the first month after the trauma. Over time, the body, heart, and mind are able to function the way they did before the trauma. This allows people to make sense of painful trauma-related thoughts and emotions. They feel comfortable again in their own skin. They can gradually reconnect fully with their body, heart, and mind. Their memory of what happened and their feelings about it will never totally go away, but it will no longer consume them. And they will no longer need to disconnect from their thoughts, memories, emotions, and even their own bodies to avoid becoming overwhelmed. Unfortunately, some people get stuck on the path to recovery for months, years, or even decades. It's from Louanne, 2008, Monson and Fredman, 2012. Getting unstuck. Because you picked up this book, maybe you feel that you are stuck on the path to recovery from trauma. You may feel as if you are stuck in a time warp where you will be haunted forever by the trauma. You may even believe that you deserve the stressful after effects as punishment for something you did or did not do during the trauma. You may feel hopeless. You may believe that you will never be happy. You may feel like you don't even know who you are anymore. All of your experiences, traumatic or not, are part of who you are and who you become. Trauma can never be erased. However, trauma and loss can be woven into your life story. Once the trauma becomes only part of your life story, it no longer takes over your identity and keeps you from living a meaningful life. The good news is that it is possible to get unstuck. You can move beyond just surviving after trauma to living life fully. When you are able to tend to the emotional injury of trauma, your wounds can heal. With healing, your emotional pain and suffering from the trauma will become a much smaller part of your daily life. Many who suffer from trauma believe that tending to their emotional wounds is the wrong thing to do. They may believe that talking about the effects of trauma is like picking at the scab of a flesh wound. It should be left alone in order to heal properly. But once the effects of trauma take root, it's almost as if the emotional wounds become infected. In order to heal, emotional wounds need care. Tending to the emotional wounds of trauma can even transform you and your life in unexpected positive ways. This book is for people like you, people who have survived a traumatic event. It doesn't matter where you are on the path to recovery. The mindfulness skills that you will learn in this book will help you reconnect with your body, heart, and mind. Mindfulness is your inborn ability to be attentive to what is happening in your body, heart, and mind, as well as what is going on around you, moment to moment. You will begin to reconnect with your body, heart, and mind in a way that helps heal what was disrupted by trauma. This book will guide you and help you to strengthen and grow your inborn mindfulness ability. You will learn to use mindfulness skills in your daily life to help you get unstuck and moving on the path of recovery from trauma. In the rest of this chapter, I will explain post-traumatic stress and how mindfulness can help in more detail. You will learn about how humans are hardwired to respond to stress. This will help you understand how people get stuck in the vicious cycle of post-traumatic stress symptoms. I will end the chapter with recommendations for how to use this book. Before diving into these topics, however, please review the box below where I define key terms used in this book. Key terms. Mindfulness is both your inborn ability to be mindful, that is, to be aware of your moment-to-moment experience, and mindfulness skills. So, mindfulness is both a way of being and skills you use to be mindful more often. Mindfulness meditation is a method to train or exercise the brain. This helps to develop mindfulness skills. Mindfulness is about learning to relate differently to what you experience. Mindfulness meditation is like going to the mind gym. You will use both mindfulness meditation and mindfulness practice for the methods described in this book. Moment-to-moment experience is what happens around and within us, including our private thoughts and feelings. This includes the unedited information we take in through our senses. Our body, heart, and mind quickly interpret or understand that information. Your body refers to your physical body. Body sensations are what you feel in your body, such as butterflies in your stomach, the throbbing of a headache, or the aching in your back. Good words. Your mind includes the parts of your body that produce thoughts and thinking, as well as your experience of thoughts and thinking. Your heart includes your experience of emotions or feelings. Emotional weather is any emotion you notice in yourself, where you feel the emotion in your body and your overall mood. Like the weather, your mood could be dark, cloudy, bright, stormy, or still. Our body, heart, and mind make up the whole unique human being that each of us is. Although we often talk about our body, heart, and mind as separate, they work together. They give us our sense of who we are as a person and what is important to us. I use the words body, heart, and mind frequently to maintain our awareness of what creates our wholeness as human beings. Bringing balance to your body, heart, and mind refers to adjustments that usually take place after trauma, after that life and death situation is over. However, with post-traumatic stress, your body, heart, and mind can get stuck. They can continue to work in ways that helped you survive the trauma but are no longer needed. Recovering from PTS helps balance the body, heart, and mind so they once again work together to help you meet the demands of daily life. Trauma and traumatic event refer to your experience or experiences of something horrible. The trauma involved a threat to or actual loss of life. Post-traumatic stress, PTS, is all the ways that trauma affects your body, heart, and mind, causing physical, emotional, and/or mental strain or stress afterward. Post-traumatic stress disorder is a diagnosis made by a mental health professional. This diagnosis is made a month or more after the trauma, when the effects of PTS continue instead of naturally fading. The diagnosis alerts mental health professionals that you still struggle with distressing symptoms. These symptoms keep you from relating to other people and completing daily tasks the way you could before the trauma. You now have a basic understanding of the key terms. I will also introduce other terms along the way. Stuck in the stress response. To learn how you can get stuck, let's look first at how people are hardwired to respond to stress. We humans have built-in stress responses. We fight, we flee, or we freeze. These responses do a great job to help us survive life-threatening situations. It makes sense to fight off a bear in the woods if we have a loaded gun, we shoot well, and we don't have time to get away. It makes sense to run away from the bear if we can outrun it and get to a safe place. And freezing is a really good choice when we can't win the fight or we can't get away. One way of freezing is to play dead and hope the bear is not threatened or hungry. Freezing may also prevent a predator from discovering us. You have probably seen an animal freeze when it hears a sudden sound. In order to meet a life or death physical threat in a way that gives us the best chance to survive, our body makes many changes. It helps us get ready to act, to fight, to flee, or freeze. One change is that our thinking shuts down, so it doesn't delay life-saving action. In the example of the bear, if we stand around thinking about all of our options, the bear will get us. Our body's survival system takes over to give us the best chance to survive. However, the fight, flight, and freeze responses become problems when they continue long after the immediate danger has passed. If you struggle with post-traumatic stress, PTS, Even though the physical threat is gone, your fight, flight, freeze system is still active. One of the important jobs of your fight, flight, freeze system is to control your level of arousal. Arousal has to do with how alert and energized you are. Imagine that you have a ready for danger light switch in your brain. It's a dimmer switch that goes from high to low. When you struggle with PTS, you react with the fight or flight response because your ready for danger light switch is stuck in high. The dimmer no longer adjusts properly to provide just what you need as conditions change. That means you stay stuck in high even when you're no longer in danger. Think of your freeze system as your ready for danger light switch stuck in off at a low level of arousal. Again, the dimmer no longer adjusts properly when conditions change. You may find it useful to think about the symptoms of PTS as conditions that cause false alarms. Trauma disrupts the processes that decide if something is really happening right now or if it is a memory of something that happened in the past. With PTS, you probably know too well the feeling of terror you experience with a traumatic memory. It may come out of nowhere, or it can be triggered by something you see, smell, or feel. This is a false alarm because the trauma happened in the past. Still, you may feel like the trauma is really happening all over again right now. Or you may feel a sudden or growing sense that you are in danger, even when no specific danger is present. These false alarms are misfires in your stress response. They increase your arousal and require a high level of physical, emotional, and mental energy. You breathe faster and your heart beats faster so that your body is ready to fight or run away. We all know what it is like to be startled when we hear a sudden, unexpected, loud sound like a car backfiring or fireworks exploding. But when you have post-traumatic stress, any sudden sound may startle you. The sound may also trigger a terrifying traumatic memory. You may feel threatened and have a very strong urge to fight or escape. Your reaction is stronger and lasts much longer than the reaction of others who do not have PTS. You may go so far as to lash out at whoever caused the sudden noise, or you might hit the dirt to prepare for the worst, which is an example of how a false alarm produces the freeze response. The freeze response decreases arousal. When you freeze, you may hunker down, curl up in a ball, and become still in order to reduce injury. Freezing may also take the form of checking out. That means you zone out. You're in a state that is not really awake, yet not really asleep. You go somewhere else in your mind when the threat causes emotions that overwhelm you. With PTS, your built-in survival system is overactive and frequently sets off false alarms. This takes a huge toll on you, wearing down your body, heart, and mind. PTS limits your ability to respond effectively to everyday challenges. It interferes with your health and well-being. PTS wears down your immune system, which makes you more prone to illness. You are slower to recover from illness or heal from injury. From trauma to post-traumatic stress to PTSD. Post-traumatic stress is more common than you might think. According to the National Center for PTSD website, www.ptsd.va.gov/public/PTSD, overview /basic/how-common-is-PTSD.asp. A surprising 50 to 60% of people in the United States are exposed to a traumatic event in their lifetime. National Center for PTSD, 2016. Any type of traumatic event will create some amount of stress. However, traumas of a more personal and life-threatening nature are associated more with post-traumatic stress. If you are suffering from PTS, know that you are not alone and you are not crazy. What does post-traumatic stress look like? Anyone who experiences trauma experiences post-traumatic stress symptoms to some degree. The symptoms are the ways the body, heart, and mind naturally respond to trauma. For many, the symptoms gradually decrease during the first month after the trauma. For others, post-traumatic stress symptoms linger in many forms. The effects of these symptoms on daily life can range from mild to disabling. The 4 groups of PTS symptoms will probably sound familiar. Intrusive memories, changes in thinking and feeling, changes in arousal and reactivity, and avoidance. It's from the American Psychiatric Association, 2013. However, you may not have noticed the link between all the symptoms and the traumatic event that you experienced. The first group, intrusive memories. The first group of PTS symptoms involves intrusion of the trauma into your present life in the form of memories, nightmares, or flashback. Flashback is when you suddenly lose touch with the present and feel like you are back in the past, going through the trauma all over again. Or when something reminds you of the trauma, you have strong, unpleasant emotions or sensations in your body like you had when you were going through the trauma. Intrusive memories attack your body, heart, and mind in the present. Changes in thinking and feeling. Intrusive memories drive the second group of symptoms. Changes in your thinking and feeling. After trauma, your ideas about yourself, others, or the world in general can become inflexible and quite extreme. Here are examples of changes in thinking. You believe that you are a failure because you did not prevent what happened, that the world is now a totally unsafe place, or that no one can be trusted. An example of a change in feelings is that you may feel more irritable, short-tempered, and angry after the trauma than you did before. Trauma memories can cause painful feelings that can be overwhelming. You can become so overwhelmed that you may quickly zone out or go numb. When unpleasant feelings are repeatedly numbed, it also becomes difficult to feel pleasant feelings such as happiness and love. have men. Okay. Where was I? An example of a change in feelings is that you may feel more irritable, short-tempered, angry. Oh yeah. When unpleasant feelings are repeatedly numb, it also becomes difficult to feel pleasant feelings, such as happiness and love. Changes in arousal and reactivity. When the trauma happened, the fight-flight response kicked arousal and reactivity, the third group of symptoms, into high gear. I explained earlier that arousal is an increase in alertness and energy. It prepares us for action. An example of arousal is feeling keyed up. That is, on guard or on edge when we are in a crowd of people. Another example is feeling irritable when there's nothing happening to cause the irritation. And reactivity is how quickly our body, heart, and mind change after something happens inside us, like feeling an emotion, or when something happens outside of us in our environment. Examples of reactivity to something outside of us include jumping out of our skin whenever we hear a loud noise. Reminders of the trauma can trigger quick and intense reactions that are out of proportion to the reality of the present situation. Distressing trauma-related memories, thoughts, and feelings are examples of experiences inside you. After trauma, these experiences inside you can feel like a threat. They can trigger a ready-for-danger response. These internal threats create a vicious cycle of increasing distress in the present. And then we have avoidance. Intrusive memories of the trauma and distressing thoughts and feelings fuel arousal and reactivity. This vicious cycle is maintained by the fourth symptom, avoidance. Your life becomes more and more limited as you avoid people, places, and situations that remind you of the trauma or that you are afraid will remind you of the trauma. You avoid these situations because they may trigger upsetting thoughts, emotions, and/or physical reactions. For example, if you were in a terrible car accident on a country road, you may plan your driving route so you don't have to travel on any country roads. As a result, you may spend extra time driving and more money on gas, which you could use for other activities. You may also be missing out on beautiful scenery that you would not see on a highway. Avoidance keeps the cycle of post-traumatic stress going. Avoidance robs you of the chance to learn that you are, for the most part, safe in the present. It also robs you of the opportunity to know that you can handle your memories, thoughts, and emotions. Post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD, is diagnosed a month or more after the trauma if the symptoms I described above are frequent and severe enough to prevent you from going about your daily activities and interacting with others the way you did before the trauma. If you want to learn more about post-traumatic stress disorder and PTSD symptoms, check out the National Center for PTSD website at www.ptsd.va.gov and/or some of the books and articles listed in these references. Why do I have post-traumatic stress? Getting stuck in post-traumatic stress may have something to do with your heredity, personal characteristics, and background. It may also have to do with the nature of the traumatic event or events you experienced. Recovery from trauma can be hindered when you don't have the support you need. Support can come from a variety of sources, such as family, friends, co-workers, and/or mental health professionals. If you are stuck, you have not been able to make sense of what happened, and you are trapped in the past. You may spend a great deal of time trying to figure out how you could have prevented the trauma, and you are likely to be caught up in worries that something often will happen to you or those you love in the future. If you are stuck in PTS, you are also trapped in a cycle of avoiding reminders of the trauma. This gets in the way of your recovery. You become more and more disconnected from yourself and other people. In fact, trauma expert Peter Levine, 2008, believes that trauma has much to do with loss of connection. For example, over time, you may have disconnected from your body because certain body sensations became linked with emotional distress. You may also feel disconnected from who you are as a person. You may also lose connection with other people and life in general. The vicious cycle of post-traumatic stress. Keeps going on like this. Yeah, all these, there's no chapters. Oh, yes there is. Okay. Jeez. The vicious cycle of post-traumatic stress. This book will help you understand how your body, heart, and mind are profoundly affected by trauma. Trauma-related body sensations, emotions, and thoughts pull you into memories and regrets about the past, as well as into fears and worries about the future. This feeds a vicious cycle of increasing arousal and reactivity. Trauma-related bodies, sensations, emotions, and thoughts pull you into memories and regrets about the past, as well as into fears and worries about the future. This feeds a vicious cycle of increasing arousal and reactivity. You will learn how mindfulness meditation can help you train your mind to stay grounded in the present. Mindfulness skills will also help you to relate differently to distressing trauma symptoms. Symptoms that you have gotten into the habit of avoiding. You will learn to spend more of your time in the present, which is the only time zone in which you heal from trauma, so you can more easily understand how mindfulness can help break the vicious cycle of PTS symptoms. Let's briefly explore the biology of trauma. Emotional mind and rational mind. Trauma researcher Bessel van der Kolk, 2014. I have that book too? Yes, I do. It helps explain the biology of how trauma disrupts the connection between your body, heart, and mind. The nervous system includes the brain, the spinal cord, and all the nerves that help communicate within the nervous system and with other parts of your body. Your emotional mind is made up of the oldest and most basic parts of your nervous system. I learned recently that humming and singing helps to calm the vagus nerve, which I guess is something important in the nervous system. I think it goes through our whole torso. I don't know the exact points. But yeah, humming and chanting. Your emotional mind handles basic needs, such as controlling attention and energy levels, arousal, sleeping, waking, eating, breathing, and the balance of chemicals or hormones in your body. Your emotional mind also sorts out information coming from your senses and memory. Emotions give you signals about the meaning of your experiences. Alarms are set off when you perceive a threat. The alarm system is quiet when you perceive that you are safe. Your emotional mind also directs the changes in your body that are part of the fight-flight stress response system. The sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems make up the autonomic nervous system. Autonomic means it doesn't need any direction from us. The sympathetic nervous system sends stress hormones to activate fight or flight, like turning the dimmer switch all the way on. The fight or flight responses are meant to occur quickly and strongly to meet immediate danger. Unlike the sympathetic nervous system, the parasympathetic nervous system slows things down. It turns the dimmer switch to off to activate the freeze part of the stress response. That's from Porges, 2011. It is also responsible for the rest, repair, restore functions that help to return your body, heart, and mind to balance once the threat is gone. The sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems usually work well together, but with post-traumatic stress, fight, flight, freeze is overly active, and the rest, repair, restore system isn't able to do its job of returning balance very well. Your rational mind acts like a supervisor. The supervisor makes sure that your emotional mind reads situations correctly. An important part of this is seeing the big picture. This includes the rich detail of any situation or experience. Your rational mind also figures out how others may be feeling. It predicts how different actions might play out. But in the highest alarm, a life and death situation, the fight, flight, freeze system shuts down your rational mind. This prevents you from thinking too much. Why? Because thinking would delay quick action to get you out of harm's way. The problem with post-traumatic stress is that it doesn't take much to kick your fight, flight, freeze system into alarm mode. And false alarms are common. The higher the level of false alarm, the less your rational mind is able to do its job. This makes it difficult to function well in your life after trauma. For example, if you are a veteran home from Iraq, you may experience false alarms in crowded places. If this happens when you are in a crowded gym watching your daughter play basketball, you may leave and miss her sinking the winning basket. Even worse, your daughter may notice that you left the game and take your leaving personally. She might think you don't care about her. She is not aware of or doesn't understand the effects of trauma you experienced during deployment. You now know more about how post-traumatic stress often causes your body, heart, and mind to get stuck in life or death survival mode. Survival mode makes it difficult for the rest, repair, restore system and rational mind to do their jobs to restore balance in your body, heart, and mind. This may partly explain the research that shows a relationship between trauma and poor physical health. McFarland, 2010. People who have PTS often talk about how much mental and physical energy they use up just to get through each day. PTS also interferes with sleep. The daily experience of feeling threatened is exhausting and leads to both physical illness and emotional suffering. Letting go of the struggle with emotional pain. All human beings can expect emotional pain to result from emotional injury. However, the emotions you feel during and immediately after trauma, such as fear, sadness, and shame, often continue for a very long time. It is understandable that you would want to get rid of pain. Avoiding pain is part of your survival instinct. We are hardwired to move toward what we think is safe or good for us and to move away from what we think is dangerous or bad for us. I wish I was hardwired that way. Wouldn't have problems if I was. But you may not be aware that suffering happens when you feed emotional pain with the very energy you use to resist, avoid, and try to get rid of it. It's complicated. There's two schools of thought. Your struggle to make emotional pain go away only turns emotional pain into suffering. Suffering is part of being stuck and interferes with healing from trauma. Although we can expect pain as part of being human, suffering is a different story. One part of a path to recovery is to allow your painful feelings to be as they are. You already know from experience that it is not possible to get rid of painful feelings. So what can you do? Practice mindfulness. Mindfulness helps you work with this habit of trying to solve the problem of emotional pain by avoiding it, that is, trying to ignore it or make it go away. Mindfulness is a way to relate differently to emotional pain. Mindfulness can help you focus your energy on responding and healing instead of reacting and struggling. Mindfulness can help you stay present with the pain by riding it like a wave. That wave of pain will peak and then naturally dissolve on its own as it crashes on the sand.